Um, hey, I'm live. I was just here humming to myself, kind of getting ready. So, anyhow, welcome to Behind the Scenes. It's Monday afternoon, and I'm Sarah. I'm glad you joined, and I welcome you to just kind of in my studio. I like to share a little bit about what's going on and bits and pieces of my process to hopefully set you on track, maybe if you're feeling like you're not quite sure what's going on, or perhaps just give you a little piece so that you're inspired and have a kind of a springboard to take off from. As a creative and artist, um, I know that it's not just any one single action or tool or colors that really makes a difference for me, but it's putting all those pieces together. So while I can't bring you full transformation today, I can give you a little piece of that hopefully you can utilize. Anyhow, today I wanted to just focus on where you find your inspiration. All right, because it comes to us in lots of different ways, and it just kind of like this topic takes me back to years ago when the book Who Moved My Cheese came out. And I remember reading that book and so identifying with it, because at some point in our life, whether it's personally or artistically or relationally, emotionally, even spiritually, we keep going to the same place over and over to get our needs met, to get that little piece that gives us what we need for that day. And what we don't realize, I didn't realize, is that that was going to change. You know, who knew? My flesh likes to get comfortable, and it wants to find the least possible way to get what I want and where I need to be. And then I have this big memory lapse where I forget that constantly changes. So I just want to remind you that, hey, as you evolve, your art will evolve. And if you're blocked or feeling like you don't know what the next step is, or maybe you have some great ideas, but you don't know how to put them into action, that, yeah, that's art. That's life, right? So anyhow, so let's focus on where we find our inspiration. And so today, what I want to do is just kind of, I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to share with you some images that I put together from my photo album, just for the purpose of, I just picked some random images, and I'm going to talk about inspiration. So if you're a note taker and you want to jot a few things down, that's great. And I did not write any type of script today for myself, so I don't have any bullet points to share with you. I do that sometimes, but honestly, I don't like to get so religious about art, so confined. There's no formula per se. The whole essence of my practice is about going with the flow, letting myself come into alignment with what is. So each day is a new day, and I like to wake up with an open mind and know that, I've never experienced this day. I have never really engaged with myself, with the canvas, with the work I do with others, in a way I will today. So it's a new day, and I'm going to go off the cuff like I do oftentimes with my creativity and let myself start tracking. So you may sense when that happens, and there's no pressure. I don't put that pressure on myself. So anyway, so I am going to, I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to make it big so that you can just look at the screen itself. And one of the first images I have that I want to show you here is an image that I took in North Carolina. This goes back to, let's see, I was in Black Mountain in 2014. And this was a fabulous time. I was connecting with other artists, and I had just begun to paint earlier that year. This is in September, and I believe it was like January, February when I began painting. And so those couple of months, I began just really putting on canvas what I was sensing and feeling. Had no real direction other than just doing, doing just that. I wasn't really focused on making a masterpiece. I was more interested in the conversation that was happening with me intuitively. So my curiosity led me on this trail. So anyhow, I came upon this artisans gathering, and so this is one of the pictures I took while I was up in Black Mountain. It was a wonderful time. And this is a plant, and it had been raining. So when I woke up the next that morning, and I took a walk, this is actually a picture of a spider web in a plant. And you'll see that all those little bubbles are little droplets of water. And I just thought it was the juxtaposition of this, just those little circles contrasting with the green, with the plant, that's solid, that here you have this water that's translucent, and it appears to be suspended by, and so if we were to blow this up, you would see the spider web. But in this particular image, you don't see that detail at all, but just the suspension of that, and yet the construct of the plant. So it just caught my eye, just that beautiful like pop. And so that in and of itself was an inspiration for me. So nature is where I find a lot of inspiration. And if you follow me for any period of time, you know that's big for me. I really resonate with nature, and I think we all feel good in nature because nature is it's tuned to the sea, to the let's see, I want to say this right. It's tuned to the musical note C, and it's very calming and balancing. C is centering. And so I really believe that each of us has a season, a place in nature, something that really lights us up, that connects us. And so that would be what I would do, is first just take a note. You're inspired and in nature. So talk a little bit, maybe write a few sentences down as to what it is about nature that inspires you. Is it, sometimes it's mainly about an element like water. So I am drawn to water. So I found water here in this plant. I live in South Florida, so I'm drawn to water. I've grown up near water my whole life. And honestly, when I vacation, I love to vacation somewhere where there's water. Okay. So a lot of my vacationing is done where I can find water. So it could be a coast, it could be the beach, it could be the ocean, but it also can be like inland water. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. We'll see what other pictures I have. But others, like air, just air in and of itself. What kind of air? Something breezy, something humid, something dry. What is the condition of that element, and what does it do for you? How does that inspire you? So I know for me, temperature is another inspiration. It's a lot easier for me to be warm than it is cold, where you may find it much easier to be cold than to be warm. So all of these things are what we discover about ourselves. And you might say, what does that have to do with me painting? Well, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised because you'll pick colors to help you get comfortable in that scene. So if you're painting water, you're going to paint things around it using colors that not only support you or express the kind of flow or water that you care for. You'll be able to use colors and design, line and form to be able to get that across, so that people looking at your art are going to be able to tell where that body of water might be located, or what that body of water does for you, or what does that body of water, more importantly, do for them? How are they connecting with it? So all of this, again, I'm not giving you any full transformation, but I'm simply poking holes in your thought process to open your mind and let you be inspired, so that you'll start having that kind of curiosity throughout your day. Okay, so I could talk about this forever. So let's move on and let me see this next picture here. So let's see, we'll go into this one. So this is a morning doodle. Now you can see that this particular doodle was done in that period of time where I was noticing, like droplets of water, botanical flowers and things, lots of like small circles, different coloring circles, different shapes, but circular or curvy in form. So here we go. You can see how that's reflected in this little morning doodle. And so I go out in nature, and then as I'm drawing, nature shows up in my art. Okay, so even these like little these figures here, these little shapes and forms on the head. Okay, so all of these little curves and lines and forms help to bring a feeling to the paper. The line is fairly delicate, so it gives you that whimsical, very light, airy, kind of free-flowing feel, as opposed to a heavier, thicker line, which would be more of a statement, kind of something that doesn't necessarily flow, but it's just there, like a stronger feel. So that's not what I wanted, and so I drew something very light and airy. Again, with these circles coming in and influencing. So I drew in the shape, and then of course I was able to add my definition with the colors. Now, this is one thing I want to say about this is, if I were strictly using color per se, then these little circles might take on more of a shadowy contour. So that could be a solid kind of a colored in gradation, a gradation, so to speak, of anything from the black into the soft grays and charcoals, just to give you this feel. But here, it's got some substantial, it's like a substantial like weightiness to it. It's got shape and also form, and that gives support. So that also lends itself to being able to express that sense. So it's almost like she's sitting in a very peaceful container, something that supports her. It's free flowing. It's not tight and constricting, but you can see by the expression on her face, it's very good for her. So anyhow, I took that doodle and went in and started working with some textiles and fabrics to be able to bring that to something that I could actually touch and feel, an object, a doll. So a lot of times it's a neat way to put into a physical form some of the things that you're being inspired by. So you can see it's got a lot of the same kind of qualities. This gauze that I've colored here, and I've colored the doll as well with alcohol inks, and they are great because they give us that kind of distressed look. I can bring in some different colors. I can layer and use colors on top of one another, and it also dries very quickly. So it's great for me to use in classes because students can move along very quickly and use the colors and layering process to be able to add dimension. So you can see that even in this particular area, it accentuates, it brings out the roundness of that body. So it gives it that 3D look by having this kind of, different shapes and forms coming out in the various colors. So as we add definition around the edge, you can do this very easily just by having the cloth a little wet, and then you've got that a little bit more of a defined edge, which gives her like this, either a winged look. This could be, these areas could show you where you want to say bead or further embellish her, as well as putting a nice canvas here, a primer, to go ahead and finish and paint a face. So anyway, these are just different ways that these inspirations can take on new life. Another way to be inspired, my husband and I were down in, I think it was Wyndham down in South Miami, and to be inspired by going and looking at other artists' work. Okay, so we were down in the afternoon and we took a kind of a cruise through different museums and spent the day just looking at some different art and being able to be up and close to, to really take a look at, what they're doing, the composition, and then standing back, having a whole new experience and meditating upon that. So it's nice to be able to go up and be up close with art and feel the energy and the essence of those artists. So that's a great place to find inspiration for sure. The other day I posted in group a picture of this sky and with this cloud. And then after I did, I began doodling on it. So you can take a picture outdoors or of a person. I've done this with people as well, and you can embellish them. And you can begin, I did this on my iPad actually, whereas I will copy the photo and then I can go in and edit and mark up the photo and save that. So I don't know. I just started doodling. It didn't start out with a woman. It started out actually with this little area here. For some reason, it caught my eye, this piece right here. And so I just started outlining it. And then I started following the colors around it. And then again, letting all the other space go, but just focusing right here. And as I began expanding it, it started taking on this shape, kind of like a flower, just like a little bit of a floral arrangement, and just looked really comfortable and peaceful. And so then I took the petals and I started working them up around the back. And when I got here, I just felt like it was just, that's when I felt the woman. So I went ahead and put her face in and began working around her hairline and above her head. And of course came over here and created the cushion. So anyway, that was a lot of fun to do. And by practicing this and letting nature be your inspiration, the spontaneity, the intuitive, just letting something happen becomes a great way to develop your confidence in your art. Because then when you're painting, you can go in and you can just begin putting paint on and layering and processing that painting in real time. Okay, so that you're not having to go in and pre-sketch everything and plan everything out so strategically. Now, there are times when, that works, okay? But the methods I teach are basically to help you break through like mindsets, that are holding you back. And a lot of that has to do with that need to be perfect and to make a masterpiece and not to make a mistake. And my whole idea is let's just go in and put it out there and practice that, so that when you get the feeling as you're working on a painting per se, when you get a feeling that, something belongs there, that you're not afraid to go put it there. Okay. You don't have to think about it too much, because when we begin thinking, we overthink, and then we get in our own way. So we can always paint over it. There's no mistakes in paint. Okay. Because for every time you put something on the canvas, if it's something that you end up not caring too much about, then you can always paint over it. So these doodles represent like that process. So those doodles could actually be paint. And so when I'm practicing my sketching or doodling on a regular basis, it enables me to come to the canvas to paint with more confidence. So I'm not as likely to fear putting that paint color there, being bold, being beautiful, having the contrast that might make a difference in the painting. Like, look at this particular shade. This is the inside of a tiger lily, and it's just a beautiful blossom. But look at all the beautiful colors. Okay, I photographed right down in the center of this fireball, and you've got lilacs, you have different shades of pinks and reds and yellows and greens. Oh my goodness, it's just like there's a lot there. So you could take. I'll tell you, as far as I know, that I've been asked, in recent times about finding your style. You haven't found your style. You've been painting for a while, or maybe you feel like you're stuck and you're ready to move into something else, but not sure what the deal is. And sometimes it's you're ready to shift and have a whole different experience. So you might come up with a style that's so new to you that you might not be, have the confidence to move forward, to step into that. So one of the ways that you can find inspiration and move forward is to take a picture, just go on a walk, or leaf through magazines, go on Pinterest, create a board, and just start putting images together that attract you. They don't even have to have the same theme, okay? And yet you'll find a theme. So go into it, just think you're like in a candy store and you're like, I like that, I like that, I like that, I like that. Put it all together. And then what you can do is, it's very interesting. Take an index card and cut a 1x1 square in the index card. And then what I want you to do is hold that index card over the area of that image that gets your attention first. Okay. And then take a picture of that. And you can leave it taped if you like, but if you're doing a whole series of pictures, it's fun to take a picture of it. You have that option, and add that to your album. And for each of the images, you will have like this little mini application, so to speak. You'll have that 1x1 little zoom in, if you will. And you can learn a lot about yourself and your creative flow by that exercise. So you can look at it. You'll see if there's colors that are patterns for you. You'll look to see about the composition. How did you place that square? What's showing up in the square? What about that composition? Where does your eye go in that little square? And just, it's exciting. So there's a lot we can glean from that. And if you do this exercise and you want some feedback, I've got a live creative coaching opportunity available for you that's coming up on Sunday, July 12th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you'll look in the group under announcements, you'll find directions on how to submit a ticket to request a hot seat. The seats are limited. And so I will answer as many coaching calls as I'm able to, and then we'll have some Q&A time as well. But if you'd like to do this exercise and show me some of these, I will be happy to give you some coaching on that and pointers as to what might be the next step for you and get you going. So try something fun and new, and hopefully that will inspire you. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what is this? This is a body cast that was worn by Frida. Okay. And so Frida, she is the artist that, when I think she was about 18, she was on a bus or a trolley and they had an accident and it was really bad. And she had suffered, I believe, from polio as a young girl. So she was not well to begin with. And so here she is on this trolley and they have an accident. She's hurt super bad. All right. So she spent, I know, at least a year or more. I'm thinking more, in bed. She was in a body cast. So this is one of her casts. Well, she would paint her casts. And so this is one of the casts that she had painted. And it's just to show you that, wow, look at the inspiration there. So she had in her history, and I don't want to take up the whole time, but you can see that in the center there is her womb. And it's about her relationship with this child, okay, in her womb. So I won't go into the whole story, but she's representing that there. So it's symbolic. So she has a little area, but she's painted it like a container. And so you can see that it's quite faded and there's a lot more to the story, but you'll have to look it up if it's something that you want to be inspired. But the reason I put this in here is we want to be inspired by other artists. We don't necessarily have to roll how they do, but you can see some of the interesting ways that they have expressed themselves and use the opportunity right where they are. And so I guess that's really the message that I wanted to put here, is that Frida was an overcomer. And in spite of her being bedridden, she used her creativity right where she was. In fact, her father had an easel built so that it was it was over the bed. It was like a table easel, especially for her hospital bed. And she was able to paint and did quite a bit of work. So if you find that interesting, look her up. And Frida Kahoo. And so the message here is that, look for other artists. Most of them are overcomers. It's insane the amount of artists that ended up in tragic deaths and relationship issues. So hopefully we have some tools today, and art has progressed in a way that gives us more freedom to express ourselves and find ways to reach others in meaningful ways. But anyway, other artists will inspire you. Now, before, in the image before, I encouraged you to gather images so that you could get to know a little bit more about your style and through composition and that sort of thing. One of the ways that I find it really helpful is to create boards in Pinterest. And you can make private boards. Oh, this is a good one. And having those boards will allow you to study. So again, many times I have made boards about artists, particular artists, and you can make them private. So they're just for your study if you'd like. Oftentimes with the gals that I work with creatively as in coaching, we will share those boards so that, with some of the assignments that I give, it kind of works in and it helps us to give a visual. And, that's the beauty. It makes online coaching a lot easier when we can get some images up and make some albums and be able to share those so that we can scoot through those as well as the work that you do. So this image, I put this image in because people inspire us. Babies inspire us. Movement and form inspire us. And I guess that's what I saw here is movement and form. So many of the paintings that I started with when I first began painting were all about form. I could sense a particular form or posture with a figure. I remember asking my husband one night, do you have a minute to take a picture of me? And it was taking a picture of me. It was not for me. It was for the form that I was feeling. I was feeling this woman in a particular position. And so he took a picture of me and I was able to sketch that into an underpainting and then begin working with that. So anyway, again, it's handy to be able to make a board with different forms that appeal to you. And forms can come from people. It can come from flowers, like just this. What's interesting for me is that a lot of times I will find in my photos like this. This is a photo I took from my garden, and it's an amaryllis. And oftentimes I see in the images clusters of threes. So in this, again, there's threes. You can count 2 sets of threes, and it's just amazing, just the form that's here. Now, if you look at these forms, they're very soft. They're contained. You want to say they are defined but not hard. And you can see that they evoke like this. I don't know, when I look at it, I can take a deep breath because I know they are unfolding. I know that they're blossoming. I know that there's movement there. So it's not a hard form. It's very dimensional, and you can feel the expansion in this. Expansion is also apparent in the way that these petals are designed. You see it? They actually speak of expansion. So if you've got a form on it, let's say you go back to a doodle, you've drawn a shape, for instance, and you want to give it form. What is that shape? Is it something that expands? Is it solid? Is it translucent? What is its characteristics? How do you want to describe that visually? So first, of course, it's handy to jot down a few words along the side of my paper. I oftentimes will journal along the side of it, and then I'll say, how do I create that? And so you've got a couple of different things. You've got some lines that are a little bit darker. They define Okay, the fact that it's expanding and then it's filled in between with some softer colors. You've got a little bit of darkness here because it's contouring and it's curling underneath. So it's got a little bit of a shadow. And again, you've got some shadowing here, but you see the form and it's coming up. And as it does, it gets lighter. And it's quite beautiful. So these are ways that you can, like, let's say, for instance, I've painted a couple of different paintings off of this one photo. And so, again, take an index card. You can make it 1 by 1. You can make it 3 by 3. You can make it whatever you want. If you want to, you can make it, say, 2 by 3. So it's a rectangle. And then put that card over the image. And then what you'll be able to do is you can take a picture and you can see that's what you'll be painting from. That's the inspiration. So these are some exciting, very simple, ordinary ways that it's easy for you to be able to be inspired. Again, back to nature. So I was taking a nature walk. This is actually on one of my aunt's property. Over in Central Florida. And I am always so intrigued about trees that have other trees growing on them. And she has several. And I don't know, I just think of like a mama, and she's surrounded by loved ones, and it's like a celebration. So I always feel like things are like, it's just such a feminine kind of form there. So this is inspiring. So a couple of different things. Again, go back. You can use the index card to cut out, and that way you can focus on a particular section of it. Or you can do all kinds of things with this. Again, if you're an abstract artist, and again, feel free to not have to make everything look exactly like the image. So you may cut this image and you may slightly distort it. And that's beautiful. That's a lot of fun. That may be your thing. Maybe that's how you get your message across, so that, again, you can inspire someone else. You can express what you're sensing with this, what this does for you. Some may describe this a lot different than I do. You may describe this as something that's very constricting, something that feels very like captive. Maybe this has the opposite effect for you. So that mingling or integration or connection may be too close for comfort for you. Okay, no big deal. So what do you do with that? What does that remind you of? And how can you use this to move you forward in a way that, again, when we're painting, things come up, our insides come out, and sometimes we don't even know what to do with that. And we're afraid to draw something that's uncomfortable. We're afraid to paint something that feels ugly or dark or messy. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're breaking through that. When we resist that, we are closing ourselves off from inspiration. So I stress, and I'll stress again, let go and go with the flow. Try not to control the outcome of what you're painting, because the more you try and control the outcome, what happens is that control has lots of friends, and it looks a lot of different ways, and you don't want to get into the habit of fear letting you decide how to paint. All right, or you don't want to let the spirit of perfectionism come in and make you feel constricted or closed in or captivated. Maybe that's really if you're seeing that in this photo, maybe that's what's going on. So why don't you shift that perspective and look at it as like the parts of you, letting yourself embrace the all of you. Maybe that's you in your wholeness, and you've been resisting it because you perceived it as feeling captivated or closed and fearful. So anyhow, it's fascinating how nature can help us feel what's going on inside. So here we are, we're back at the beginning. I'm going to come back on the screen myself and just let you know that, boy, I just love walking through this process and sharing with you how I'm inspired, with the hope that perhaps something will, click with you so that you will have the ability to step out and in real time be able to make the shift, because you've recognized those feelings or that sense of being captured or blocked, or confined. All right, that you'll recognize what it feels like to get caught up in perfectionism or the need to control the outcome. So sometimes it's a matter of just stopping, stepping outside, and going for a walk in nature. It could be that if you're not able to do that, that perhaps you can go on your Pinterest boards and just start looking at your Pinterest boards, because what that does is I call it an eye gate study. Okay, so it loads up your creative well. And like I said, it begins to overflow. So you begin to witness that in your work. Just like in my doodles, how I started witnessing it in other works. Okay, so anyhow, that was exciting. I could talk about that all day long. I hope that you've been able to get a few little pearls of wisdom out of this, that if you're a note taker, you took some notes. I will post on in the group. I'm going to post a little recap so that you might jot down a few things of your own. But let me know what you heard that inspired you. What did you hear today that you feel you can put into action right now to help you with either moving forward, getting back to a project? Maybe you have a project that you started years ago and you just put it away. So doesn't mean you haven't been working on other things since, but I know for me, every now and then I go back and I look through some paintings that I never finished. And it might be a good idea just to pick one out and put it on the canvas. Just begin to ponder that a little bit and ask, what kind of inspiration do you need to get going on that painting again? Is that painting speaking anything to you differently today than it did when you were working on it? Okay, because as we evolve, our work evolves. And it just might be that you did what you knew at the time, and yet now you're equipped to continue. Okay, so anyhow, let me know how I can help you out. Keep letting me plant those little pearls of wisdom to get you going and show me some work. My goodness, I'd love to see your work. And then too, if you want some free coaching, look in the group under announcements on July 12th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be taking hot seats, okay? And we'll learn from each other. So even if you don't take a hot seat, come and listen and learn so that you too can begin up-leveling your art and your life. And then there'll be time for Q&A afterward as well. So you don't have to have a hot seat. You can even just post a question in the group and I'll be able to answer that for you. So anyhow, if you liked what you heard today, certainly give this a thumbs up. If you're listening on YouTube, subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss anything. And I will see you next week. Okay. All righty. Bye-bye.